Hey guys, Novus here, and welcome back to From the Depths. So, I've been mucking around a bunch with these sort of steam power generators sort of a dealio. And I've been trying to get it to a point where it was efficient. I kind of had to pull some crafty stuff, in air quotes. I had a design that I was mucking around with. The idea was meant to be, although it kind of hasn't quite turned out this way. I'm still got to do a little bit more fiddling. But I'll probably do it here, so that way you can see sort of what I'm talking about, like what I've set up, essentially, how I've done it. And yeah, it's... I'm not going to say it's amazing or anything, but you know, I just wanted to try something and see how it worked. That's all this has been so far. It's just like the ship's one big experiment. Sort of learning how to do a bunch of different things at once. So, what I got going on is at the moment the boilers are set down to 0.1. I was looking at it and I was kind of thinking I might even need to set it up to like 0.12. Might be a bit better. So that's one of the adjustments I needed to make. Now what we've got going on is I brought it up to 9 generators from 6. At the same time, I've now made it a very simple 5-block long generator. So what I'll do is I'll set it up on the top here real quick, just so it's like a lot easier to see what's going on here. So we've got one small steam generator, we've got our boiler, steam pipe, the compact turbine. Now I'd been fiddling around with this and at first I couldn't get it to work, and then I realized I was being dumb. I kind of misread it, I guess. And it was, I guess, also kind of just... yeah, I don't know, it was a silly confusion, I guess. So what happened is, I read it as compact turbine, but at the same time I kind of understood it as like turbine generator, I guess. I mistook it, and I thought it was actually meant to be a generator, so I thought that went on the end. I was like, why'd this no work? And then I realized, yeah. Whoops. Thank you. So, what we got going on? Why we no get pressure? Okay, so that's getting turned down to 0.3 by the thing inside. At the same time, the reason we're not currently getting anything is I was mucking around before, and as such, we don't currently have any materials in it. Since we do, though, it cranks up. Now, this being set to 0.3, it'll actually turn itself off. The only time the 0.3 should be kicking in is if we're below 95% power. And it doesn't appear correct. Where is it? Where you at? It's okay, no, other end. Dang it. This is the other thing I needed to move. It's all the way down this end. Alright. I need to grab you. So I'm gonna copy that real quick and take it with me. And so that was what was setting this to 0.3. Then it will get set to... now it's out of range of the one that's inside the ship, so it won't even get set down. That's fine. So yeah. What's going on? Hang on. Put that away. Paste. Now I'm going to set this to 0.31 just for a moment. And test. Alright. So the purpose behind that is to set this to the setting... this is what I was working with initially. And the idea was to try and get it to the point where, like, yes, it takes up one more block, but what we're kind of sort of doing is producing as much power as a 4-block RTG. Now, technically that thing's also taking up this block, so it is 1 block longer. But the idea was to sort of have a 4-block RTG worth of energy being produced. 96.1 is pretty close. I think it needs to be like 3.2. Sorry, 0.32. But yeah. And at the same time is utilizing 0 materials. Now, it says 0, don't trust it. When I first made this, I was like, ooh. And then, yeah, no, it takes materials. This is why if I hit F5 now, you'll see we're using about 1 to 2, probably about 1.5 materials a second. Probably very close to 2. But, yeah. It's kind of what it's utilizing at the moment. Now, I still need to finish adjusting the ones down there, but it'll crank it over to 0.12, I believe. Now, so yeah, they've been turned quite down. But, yeah, see these ones are set to 0.12, so these ones are generating 37.2 energy per second. The ones further back will end up hitting 31. So, yeah, it's a tiny difference, but it should be enough for what I was looking for. So the idea is with this, like at the moment, we can just sort of run the ship like this. It'll get around, it can do all of its stuff. I believe we can even take care of ammo generation and so forth. It's just once the shield's powered up, it did kind of have a bit of a power loss. And so it would end up doing not quite what I was after. But the idea was meant to be, because the lasers, they take so much power out of this thing, like they just sap power out of it. And I've still got to do the torpedoes. I wanted to set them up so that they are facing sideways. That way they're not also hitting the ground and bouncing off in weird directions. They'll just sort of get shot off in hopefully the direction of the enemy torpedoes. But if it's on the opposite side, they'll just kind of hopefully circle around and not end up hitting our own ship. They kind of can have a bit of derp to them. But yeah, they should be right once they're moved over and set up. Okay, so that's 0.12, yep, that's 0.12. I did this side as well, I believe, yep, okay. Alright, and then I just have to do one at the end here, I believe. Unless they're already... I don't know. I think they're actually already cranking. Yeah, 37.2. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's right. I didn't even need this one down here. I think I just forgot... Yeah, I needed to set this over here. Forgot to do that. Alright. So, this needs to be set to 0.50. Seems to be about right. Then... Yeah, see, this is set to 0. So the idea is... this thing should stay turned off. Now I actually probably need to just mimic what I have underneath and keep this engine straight up turned off. But at the same time, I also kinda like the idea that it, like the way it spools up and then sort of really slowly spools back down again. Because if this does kick in combat, it can actually end up sort of, if it's like continually using a bunch of energy, the idea is it'll sort of keep itself around what's necessary to keep the ship running, in air quotes, with just the ones underneath. But I do kind of like the idea that these ones sort of just spool up and continue to generate energy for quite a while afterwards. It's kind of nice. But yeah, so basically what's going on. Alright, let me... yeah, it should be right now. So let me save that up real quick, and then I will show you what I mean. So, yeah, outside of combat, as you can see, yes. Yeah, cranking it up to 1.2, it is very close to 2 materials per second. It looks like. Might even be slightly more than 2. Difficult to tell. Anyway, so yeah. If they had an indicator on the small ones, like if it's at less than 1 material per second, it'd be a little easier to tell, but yeah, without... whoop, nope, we still need to go further down. There we go. Without, yeah, having it sort of letting us know as it says 0. I can't really do the math and find out exactly the amount, but yeah, I'm kind of curious. But it doesn't seem like it's too much. Now, if anything, our ammo generation takes up way too many materials, so even if we weren't utilizing our steam engines at all, like if we turned all our boilers off entirely, our materials would get eaten by our ammo processors. It's just they use so much. It's disgusting. But I guess that happens when you've got like a bunch of torpedoes underneath. I probably even need to cut the number of torpedoes down a bit if I'm going to upgrade them and make them better torpedoes. But yeah, these tend to eat a lot of ammo. Once they start reloading, they just suck ammo out of the ship. Along with the missiles. Like, any kind of missiles, from what I've found, they always sort of do eat quite a bit of ammo. But yeah, so that's it set. Let's quickly, I guess we could use some spikes, because they'll launch some missiles as well. But straight away, as soon as we get into combat, okay, it might need to be 1.13 maybe. So I'll have to do, yeah, a little bit more fiddling, because you can see the power on the bottom right there. It is at the point where it's starting to go down. The idea is meant to be that it can run its shields, it can run everything but the lasers. It's like when the lasers kick in is when it should actually start using electric power. And that's when it cranks up to 0.5. 0.5 is... it's kind of sort of enough. Might be better for it to do it slightly quicker, get itself back out of that 95% zone a little sooner. But just kind of dropping spikes out of the air now. As you can see, yeah, it seems to, for the most part, efficiently sort of run its engines once it's in combat. Now you can see whenever it does manage to use up its lasers a bunch, and it does manage to sort of... come on, launch some missiles or something. There we go, its power's starting to go down. If we can get it down below, I'll summon in some more spikes. Yeah, once we can actually get its power to go down enough, we should be able to see it happen again. And you'll see the difference in material usage. It goes up a lot. And there's also the ammo usage and such. That's usually pretty rough, but also once we're actually loading those little guns. Alright. So you can see now, material usage is fair quick. But, and I feel like we could probably even set it up a tiny bit higher so that this happens slightly sooner, but you can see it bounces itself back up and hits that fairly efficient point again. It's taken a lot of experimenting with it to try and pull this off, but it does seem to work alright. It's just that you do need a tremendous amount of space. But this was, and I'd mentioned this yesterday when I looked at it, and someone also mentioned it in the comments as well. It's... oh, those guns are so noisy. Just stop that. Yeah, so, yeah, someone had also mentioned this in the comments, and it was something I'd also noted as well, which was the fact that many small boilers ramp up much quicker than one large boiler, of course. So when it gets to the point where, you know, you've got like 60 boilers going or whatever, I probably would need to count it, but I've been too lazy to bother doing that to get the exact number that's under here, but there are a lot of boilers. So the idea is there's so many boilers a second, we do up the amount that's needed. So if I was to summon in more spikes so that they'll actually power everything up and all the rest of it. And... oh wait, no, I should be looking at the power. There we go. Alright, so from 37.2, we should see it, there we go. Now remember, these are running on 37.2 normally. Like, they go up tremendously. See, they go up by about 5 times that. Which is, you know, makes sense. It's usually running at like 0.1, goes up to 0.5. But yeah, so the idea is because there's just so damn many of them, it gets to that point very, very quickly because we're still working with like very small values. It does take a lot longer to ramp up a huge boiler though, because that's something I learned when I was mucking around with the big one at the back here. Was, you know, large boilers do ramp up very, very slowly. But on the upside, once they're ramped up, unlike the small ones, they hold that power for a while. So even once we get to this point, that's what kind of holds us there for a while before it actually manages to drop down. It's because we've got these two large engines that kind of keep us in there for a little bit longer, if you get what I mean. So it's a little bit of an investment to quickly ramp those ones up, but in return, we get some pretty decent power generation that lasts for a while, so we can then run the many small boilers at a much lower setting for a while. So that was kind of what I was going for. It seems to have worked out alright. Once it gets into fights with sort of, you know, some worthwhile enemies, in air quotes, I guess, some stuff that when it's breaking them, it can get a decent amount of resources back, that'll be good. But even just its standard rate of usage is, it should be like 1/10 of one of our infinite resource pools. So the idea would be this thing just kind of skulks around in our territory and just chills out. And once it's needed, I mean, when the new ACBs come out, I can set it up so that all those ACBs underneath that are currently running the boilers would be turned off. And then I can have another boiler and sort of have it set up to, sorry, another boiler, another advanced control block, and have it set to just turn the boilers off. And what would happen is all of our material usage would just stop when we're out of combat. And so if she's just sitting in our territory not doing anything, all those boilers down the bottom would just be essentially turned off. She'd stop using materials and just chill out there. And the second it's needed, it sort of just very quickly ramps up, because of the fact that all it's got to do is to get from 0 to 37 power on each of these, 37.2. I mean, it'll do that in less than a second. So, like Bob's your uncle, it will immediately start producing power and just take off. So it's ready to rumble immediately, and that was a big thing, because I noticed with the steam engines, if you were trying to work with anything larger, that was essentially going to be impossible to pull off. But yeah, so that's that. On top of that, I think I did this. Yes. So I was even actually considering. What happened here? Whoops. That was meant to be. Ooh, that. Okay. That's better. So yeah, now what we're running, set this up slightly differently. So I noticed one destabilizer is all you need on it. You don't necessarily want a second one on there, because it does up the amount of power that you're using quite a lot, but the return, it sort of seems to reduce per stabilizer sort of a dealio, if you get what I mean. So the first stabilizer will give you a big boost in damage, and then the second one will give you a little bit of a boost, and it kind of goes down from what I've seen. So just one sort of seemed to be nominal for this setup, along with, we now have 6 storage cavities, all being filled up by all these pumps. That's how we're now able to do 900 damage per second. Well, actually no, because it's 900 continuous damage. And it's supposed to be 40 shots per second, so 40 shots to 900. It's a bit damaging. So yeah, that should be able to vaporize anything that's coming at us. Yesterday's video was just meant to be showcasing the lambs, essentially. Like I was going over everything, and sort of, I just finished working with those steam boilers, like they literally just been put in. I was still sort of in the process of learning the steam-based stuff, and just wanted to do a quick update because I finally got the lambs running. As I was managing to produce enough power to run them, I thought, yeah, I'll make a video and just quickly show them off. So, as I said, it wasn't quite a finished product, but I wasn't really intending on doing another recording until it came out in the campaign, because I wanted to keep it a bit of a surprise. But I thought I'd put this out and let you know. I definitely was still going to be working on it, as yeah, I noticed it kind of might have Well, it seemed that way. What's going on here? Why do I have... This is pointless. There we go. No idea why I had that going up. Alright. Those ones, I guess. Yeah, there's a bit of a gap, but whatever. Alright. Fair enough. I kind of forgot I even did that. So, yeah. It's basically just... It's a big ship, so it's going to take me time to go over it all as well and make sure that I haven't made any mistakes. Made any mistakes? While I was... It was ironic. Working on the ship. So, yeah, that's pretty much where it's at now, and seems to be able to fight fine. I should probably, hang on, these all, they've finished loading? Yeah, you're loaded, you're loaded, you're loaded, and you're loaded. Okay, double check this side. I like to make sure that these are all definitely loaded before I say something, because I don't want to load it up and then it's just empty. Sit around and wait for it to load up before it can fight. Alright. So what I might quickly do just before I end it is probably go over here, and yeah, the reason I was mucking around with the bulwark was just I wanted a bunch of cram cannons being thrown at us at once, so that way I could show that the lambs... Oh dear. Destroy all vehicles, thanks. No thanks. Yeah, the idea behind that was meant to be just to have a lot of cram cannons being fired at us at once. So that way I could sort of show off the fact that, like, not only were the lambs working, but they were doing enough damage that they could be breaking, like, really big cram cannon shots, which tend to have a lot of health, with ease. Just basically evaporating it. Now it's even better. And missiles are pretty much not a problem. I need to test out more with the clumped up sort of missile situation, right? Stop that. Just immediately shot itself. Okay, so there's a few shots coming over. Now we're actually in a bad spot because we don't have our power. We're still trying to ramp up. And yet... That worked alright. Oh yeah. Whoops. If I hit that button, we should be right. But yeah, it holds enough power in it that it can still zap them for a bit before it actually ends up having to be charged up to be able to do enough damage. So now that it's producing power... Dang it. You detonated... Yeah, you detonated my gun. Alright. That's disappointing. But yeah, so if I actually bother to set it up so that it'll be putting materials in. Here, bulwark, you chill. Where am I facing now? Here we go. Over here. I'm gonna move away from that. I'll just quickly slap it back in and actually have it getting materials from the get-go. It's gotten slightly more expensive again and again, but it's getting there. In terms of its effectiveness as well. So you need to go forwards. Move so we don't get hit before we can charge. Well yeah, as you can see, it's sort of ramping up relatively quickly as that power, even though we're already trying to run everything as it's getting that power. Also having... I believe it's just a weird audio glitch for a second right now. A bit odd. And so leave it to run in combat mode. It's got enough power now that it should be able to charge its lasers back up if it needs to. So kind of need to maybe have a look at trying to space the shields out a bit more. But it just sort of vaporizes those shots fairly effectively. And then power just keeps ramping up. As you can see, yeah, the lasers should be pretty much charged again already. So we're solid now, we're safe. I mean, like, the enemy was already in before we managed to get spawned in, and it could still manage to get its power up enough in time to start lasering those shots down. So yeah, it's pretty good. I need to set my AI up to actually turn sooner, because it just kind of charges towards the enemy when I prefer it wouldn't. Rather keep it side on and spraying with those guns. I'm also kind of still confused by this thing. Like, I set up restrictions for this. I might have to fiddle with them a bit more. I need to get the restrictions so that the gun can't get itself stuck like this, because it seems to be trying to do a full 360. Like around that way turn. But shouldn't be, because there's a restriction there, so it should never even be trying to go towards there. So I don't know how that occurred. No, it's turning itself back for me. It's just the AI? I'm not too sure about that. It's something I might have to look at a bit more. But if I let it do its own thing now, it should just turn towards the enemy. And yeah, so it seems to be working. It's still, as I said, needs work. It's kind of, from what I've found, how the experience goes in this game, though. You kind of just keep working on it and working on it. Improving and making it better, but that was not good. Didn't seem to want to really even target those properly. It's because it keeps, this is what I mean, like it's been told to sit 90 degrees. That's all it's got to do. It's got one job. Sit 90 degrees from the enemy. So that way you can be side on and utilizing your lasers. Seems to be having a little bit more trouble with lasering those crams down, but again, it does tend to be a lot more effective if it's actually side on with the opponent. So they're firing them a lot more often. I think a couple of their guns might have gotten damaged, so they're firing a couple of extra shots here and there, and the main volleys are, yeah, popping in between or something. I don't know. Didn't even fire at that one. So I think I still got to set a bit more detection for it as well, in terms of missiles. As it doesn't seem to detect them at low angles. When they get down low like this, it's really bad at trying to detect them. Now we have the lasers here, so they should be good at hitting things when they're down low like that. But, yeah, the primary issue is detection, so I might have to set like a detector or two into the sides of these panels. And just sort of use those to keep an eye out for missiles. Should be right. But yeah, so that's how it's working out. Hopefully it should be good. Eventually it will be done. Yeah, it should only take, I don't know, I should only have to fiddle around with it for a couple more sessions and then it should be good to go. So I'll try and save that for the campaign so that way it can sort of, yeah, I guess be a bit of a surprise if I do change anything more. And yeah. I'm actually starting to feel like that laser's having a rough time. I guess it's just the sheer volume of cram shots. But yeah, its damage is just going way down. I mean, it's got access to enough power to be able to charge it up fairly quickly. And then again, it probably wouldn't be helping once our battery power does go down, so I might need to set the limit on sort of when it kicks in for the full, like 0.5 power to the steam generators slightly sooner, so like 98% or something like that. But yeah, regardless, yeah, I'll muck around with it more. I'm going to try and get it right, but yeah, for now, this is pretty much what I'm going to be working with. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys.